The streets of Capernaum were alive with noise and movement. Merchants called out their prices, children ran laughing through the alleys, and fishermen hauled their latest catch from the waters. But in one part of the city, a different kind of gathering was taking place. A humble home was packed to the brim with people, all straining to hear the words of one man, Jesus of Nazareth. Meanwhile, outside the house, four men were struggling to make their way through the crowd. They carried their friend, a man who had been paralyzed for years, lying helplessly on a mat. The journey had been long, but their faith drove them forward. They had heard of Jesus' miracles, and they believed, if they could just get their friend to him, something incredible would happen. Inside the house, Jesus sat teaching, his voice calm yet filled with authority. The room was packed. Every corner was filled with eager listeners. Suddenly, the sound of scraping and shuffling came from above. Dust began to fall from the ceiling, and everyone looked up in confusion. Before anyone could react, a section of the roof was torn open, and sunlight poured into the room. The crowd gasped as a mat was lowered through the hole, carrying a paralyzed man. His face was etched with pain and hope, and his eyes locked onto Jesus. The men who had lowered him, friends who had carried him for miles, peered down from the roof, their faces filled with determination. They had heard of Jesus' miracles, and they believed he could heal their friend. Jesus looked at the man, then at his friends. He saw their faith, the kind of faith that moves mountains, the kind of faith that tears through roofs. With compassion in his eyes, he turned to the paralyzed man and said, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Jesus gazes at the man and speaks with divine authority. "Son, your sins are forgiven." Gasps fill the room. Religious leaders in the crowd murmur in suspicion. And then, slowly, the paralyzed man was lowered down right in front of Jesus. Lying there, his eyes flickered with hope and fear. Would this really be the moment that changed everything? Jesus looked at him with deep compassion. But before speaking of healing, he spoke of something greater. "Son," Jesus said gently, "your sins are forgiven." A tear rolled down his cheek as he took his first step. Then another, and another. The room exploded with gasps and shouts of joy. His friends rushed into the house, their faces a mixture of awe and overwhelming happiness. They embraced him, laughing and crying. The man looked back at Jesus, unable to speak. His heart overflowed with gratitude. Jesus smiled. As the crowd celebrated, Jesus quietly slipped away. He didn't seek attention or praise. His mission was far greater than just one miracle. He had come to heal more than just bodies. He had come to restore souls.